Hey everybody, we have a trifold in this video. I've avoided trifolds basically the entire time we've been making videos because I'm not a particular fan of the layout. However, I recently spent some time kind of designing, and it's nothing groundbreaking, but I figured out one that lays nice and flat and isn't super bulky, and we decided to make it. We have some South Street leather from Newbury Leathers, link in the description, and this is a beautiful marbled panel that Melissa from Dad Hands made us that I haven't cut into yet, so we're going to use this as just a little bit of a pop for the liner, and the pattern will be a few bucks at the second link in the description if you want to follow along. So I have all of our pieces cut out. The cool thing about this pattern, this is too small. This is one of the first samples, but as you can see, you can switch everything around pretty much. So if you want to do an ID wallet, an ID pocket, you can put that here or here. If you want to do just 2 card slots, you can switch everything around. You just gotta either flip
it around.
Yeah, you gotta switch it around. So like obviously like flip the pattern over if you want it to be on this side, so that your grain is facing the right direction. So with everything cut out, all we have to do is cut out the ID slot. Now I've done this before on camera, but it's always good to show you again because I know not everyone watches all the videos. I just need to find a punch. So I am using a 5/32 punch just because it's what I have at hand. You can use a 3/16 or honestly whatever radius you want your corners to be. But if you're like me, ID pockets are always a little bit hard to cut out. This is how I do it. So in the pattern, there's little circles at each corner. All I'm going to do is line up my punch with the circle, punch it down in all 4 corners. So the first thing we're going to do is just glue in our wallet body to a little bit of a liner here. And you can make this outer piece with like 5-6 ounce leather. That'll be thick enough. But I'm using 3 ounce leather. And I'm going to line it with, this is about 2.5. So we'll get our 5-6 ounce. With this design, a lot of the structure comes from the shell. So you want to make sure it's pretty sturdy or else the wall will just kind of be flopping around a little bit. So the cool thing about using this marbled leather is that you never really know what pattern you're going to get if you just throw it on like we do. So let's see what we got. There we go. Alright, so now we get to go and do our pockets. The pockets are cut straight, so you can pick to leave them straight, or we're going to use some of Buckle Guy's new acrylic templates to put some shapes in them. This is, Buckle Guy now sells a bunch of really cool acrylic tools that aren't necessarily... They sell acrylic patterns for actual wallets too, but they just put out all these measuring tools with a bunch of curves and all sorts of fun stuff. So this kit has these 2 curves, which the circles I believe are the same on the inside, but all the edges have different roundovers. So you have everything from 0.25 and goes all the way up to like 4 right here. So if you want to make bags and stuff with that, it's great. What I'm going to do in one of my pockets, because they're clear, what we can do is I'm using my gridded mat, and you can see that this is, I believe, 4 inches. I'm going to pick the widest curve here, and I'm going to line it up. I'm going to go 1 inch in on each side, and that will just automatically center it for me. So you can see my line on my cutting mat is right in this little mark, and I'm going to go like this, and that gets me a curve. Then I'm just probably going to we'll take this one, and then I'm just going to round that off this way so that our corner isn't sharp. And this one you don't have to really, you can hold at any angle because it's not directional really. So we'll go like that, and then all we have to do is make our cut. We have a nice easy curve that we made in 2 seconds pretty much. So for this pattern, this one can get a curve and this one can get a curve. For this one, I'm going to use this card-shaped one. So this is the size of a credit card. You can see, it's fit nicely. But what I like to use it for is it's really good for vertical card sleeves, for vertical card pockets. That's what it's good for.
You got it.
Because you don't even need to use the grid. You can use the lines themselves to center on your piece. And then I'm going to pick probably nothing too crazy. We'll go this one here, just a nice little thumb slot. But then, if you do more of an aggressive curve this way, we can mellow it out by using a more mellow curve this way. So then, we'll just bring this one down like that. We'll flip it over and do the same thing. And all I'm doing is button it up here. We don't need jigs or anything like that to make sure that this is centered. It's going to look just fine once we cut it out. So I really think that these new acrylics, we've been using them in the shop for like a little while now, and they're really cool to design on the fly because you can take, we've always kind of kept a lot of our patterns just that we've kept them having flat pockets so you can do whatever you want. And the jigs, these are just really cool to be able to go in and just very quickly kind of freehand, just some cool curves. You can make every wallet different. It takes like a couple seconds to do each one. So now let's get these installed. I went through and I finished top edge, the side edge, and part of the bottom edge with our main piece. And this is going to be the piece where the ID window is. And then I finished our two curves, just with a bit of Tokonol and a little bit of dye. Of course, you can finish them any way you want. So the next thing we need to do is we need to glue in what's going to be our center pocket. I'm going to mark the top here. Now you don't need to rough up your leather if it's like a veg tan, but because this is a chrome tan with a lot of oil in it, I'm just going to do a little bit of roughing so that the glue sticks nice and good. Strong, well, so that the glue holds, probably. And then we'll glue this up. And while we're gluing this up, I just remembered that I didn't finish the top of that ID window, so I have to do that as well. And I also glued up our ID slot, which is going to go on this side. And I'm just going to glue that in as well, and then finish off some edges before we move to assembling our interior. Then on the exterior, I'm going to basically sew the top and then down to the side, ending around this corner here, and I'll show you how to do the extra stuff once we have the interior fully assembled. We have this edge all finished up, so we stitched this side, and then we stitched around, all the way around to here, and the rest of this we're going to do after we get our interior all put together. So we got this glued up, this glue is dry and ready to go. We're going to glue this side. You could do both of these at the same time though once you get this finished. You don't have to do them one after the other, because you just end up waiting for glue to dry twice. So we'll give that a tap. Now we're going to do the same thing with this side. So we'll mark where this goes. The cool thing about this pattern is this is also, I sized this to be a nice little card wallet. So you kind of get two separate things. If you want to make the trifold, that's cool, but this is also just a nice little card wallet. You can put either thing on either side or both on either, you know what I mean. So yeah, a little 2-for-1. If we look at the wallet shell here, we have our interior. What we're going to want to do is we want to sew across the top and down around the curve. And then, once we do that, we'll glue the interior to the exterior, and we'll basically sew down and over, and then finish this little piece, and we'll have a finished wallet. So once we have the top of the interior sewn, I went ahead and finished the two sides that are all stitched up. It's time to attach the interior to the exterior and pretty much finish this up. So the first thing I'm going to do on the pattern, there are two lines on one side. The first line, you can use, of course, this piece for this part too. This is where we're going to glue up to install our first half. So I'm going to make a little mark there. Depending on what you're using for a liner, if you're using a liner, you can scratch this up a little bit for your glue. And we're only going to glue up this much and sew up this much because, like on a bifold, if we don't leave a little extra gap in our shell, we won't be able to close the wallet. So when you mark your second line, you'll notice that the gap on your exterior shell is bigger than your gap on your interior shell, and that's to create that gap so that we can fold it closed when it's all made. So once we have the first side stitched up all the way around, you have choices here. You can stitch this whole line, or you can leave the gaps open. For brevity, because you've seen me stitch a bunch of stitch lines in this video, I'm going to leave them open so you can see what it looks like. But if you want to stitch all the way, all I would do is punch the remaining section of this from here to the second mark we made, and just stitch that with this stitch line, and then stitch the rest of this with the other stitch line. To get the last piece of our wallet glued down, there's an inside mark on the pattern that I showed you, but there's no mark on the other side because this is going to depend on your wallet the leather thickness you're using. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in, I'm going to place my edge on the mark that I made, and then I'm going to use my scratch awl to poke a hole, and I know that that is where I want my stitching to end. So I'm going to poke that through there, and I know on this side that's where I need to glue to, and that's where I'm going to stitch to, probably one stitch over that. So to line this up, we're going to take a needle, put it through our hole, and then put that needle through the hole we punched with our scratch awl to line everything up. You're going to have to probably fold this a bit, but the needle really helps to keep everything aligned. And we're going to stick that down like that. Now there's a bunch of tension on this, so you want to make sure you use a good glue, like barge, and get it hammered fairly quickly so that it stays stuck. And the nice thing about these Oka cutting boards is that they're fairly self-healing, so you can punch into them, and then you can put a piece right on top and hammer the leather right into it, and you're not going to get any of the punch marks in your leather. That'll happen with some of the other cutting of the other punch boards. Not the clear ones, but a lot of the other ones will do that. So all we have to do is just punch this little stitch run. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go one tooth over to kind of lock this in. And that's it. It's not a very long stitch line at all. And here we go. So I've never been a huge fan of trifolds, but this one, it manages to stay fairly slim. You've got a card pocket here, 2 card pockets here, and an ID slot. But all of these pieces are interchangeable, so you can put 3 ID slots if for some reason you need that. You can put 6 pocket bank, whatever. And then on the inside you have your bill slot. We have our nice marbled leather from Melissa Dad Hands here. And everything is nicely accessible too. So, when you have your ID slot, you can flip it out, show it to people. Things come out easily. If you want to put plastic in this window, go for it. I just happen to not do that. You have your hidden slot, 2 more card slots. That's about it. It's a really fun one to make. I don't make trifolds a lot, so if you don't make trifolds a lot, maybe give it a go. Pattern will be at the second link in the description. All of the materials we used. This is Newbury Leather's South Street Tannage by Buckle Guy. Perfect for this wallet. And that's about it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.